Okay. We're live.
Well, that was fun, y'all.
Hello again.
Some more. We're going to just add some more hellos to this.
Yeah.
Recap. Yeah, Thundersleet. We get
2020.
2020. We get something from our resident mermaid. And someone needs to explain to us what the red string means. It had some significance, I'm fairly certain.
It was for us to be connected in the circle of life.
That's what I'm feeling too.
Speaking of circle of life.
Yes.
What does that mean?
It's just a circle.
Oh, I was like,
is it a flat circle?
It's just a roundabout circle. So my day, it was cold. We stayed home. I didn't go anywhere. Oh, actually, I lied. I went to a photo shoot at 4:00. So
did you do a snow shoot?
I did a snow shoot, and the roads were fine, but they were wet. So tonight they're going to be really bad. So be careful about if early in the morning and late tonight. So just be careful.
Craziness. So, I'm trying to even think what I did that was spectacular. Oh, I finished Unsolved Mysteries.
I didn't even realize there was season 2. I knew that it was coming out. Yes. I didn't realize it was out.
It came out October 19th, and the last episode, guess what?
What?
It made me sad.
No way.
You sad?
That's made impossible. Me sad. No, there's these mamas that are like missing their kids. They actually miss their children. Some moms don't.
So I don't even know if I need to reshare since, the first one was canceled or whatever. So Jamie.
I know, that's scary.
1 minute. Tell us about your day.
I had a day, and okay. I'm having a night.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
So, are you ready?
I think so. Sorry, there's messages popping up, and I'm trying to make sure that we're not doing another one because
I wanted to sing this, Carrie, but I don't want to be cut off.
Yeah, yeah, we got to be careful what we sing along to because we can't do that anymore.
Right. Did we even? Anyway,
was there anything going on in the background?
I've got nothing.
Carrie, Anita, did y'all hear something going on in the background?
Anita said she didn't hear anything.
Really?
Yeah, because they were there from the beginning.
Yeah,
so
my wife said we were still streaming on YouTube, so YouTube didn't catch us. Facebook,
man. The thing says it was something that belonged to Sony Music.
Yeah, it shut us
down.
I'm
sure later on I can go on and see what it is if they tell me. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah. Submit it as a dispute. Send it strongly.
I tried to. Yeah, I tried to, but it wouldn't. It wouldn't. Whatever. So anyway.
Oh my goodness. The guests are demanding.
Yeah. So, Jamie.
Yes.
Who do we have on the show?
Everyone. I have a very special guest tonight. A longtime friend, first-time viewer, and guest on our show. So I met this man back in Lubbock, Texas. And I met him because my wife worked with him. And so let me just tell you a little bit about his character. He's a great guy. He's one of those guys that anyone can get along with. Everyone should be friends with him. Life to the party, extrovert to the extreme. He could probably run a social undistancing show all by himself, to be honest with you. I mean, it's amazing. So that's just him. Oh, and he's probably one of the greatest uncles that have been out there. He loves his family, takes care of things as best he can when he's not in Lubbock from far away. And when he's there, yeah, definitely a family man with his mom and his nephews and nieces and everyone else. So as work, though, so my wife and he first met when they worked at the Children's Advocacy Center in Lubbock. And if you don't know about that, it's a great place. I'm not going to talk much about it because I don't know what he's going to cover, but he's coming on to talk about a lot of different there's going to be some child awareness situations. And this man is going to bring awareness to some of the challenges that we see at times, but he's gonna show us why he does what he does and tell us about his experiences. So without further ado here, let me figure out which screen he's on so that I can bring him in. And
Jamie, just as a side note, don't encourage people to have their own social and distancing show.
Yeah.
We don't need people better than us.
This better not be the Mikey Betancourt show.
I think he's going to be okay, because I think he's got a little bit more. His sights are set a little bit higher than ours, maybe. Okay.
Okay.
You'll hear from him in just a second as soon as I can find. There we go, right there, and boom.
Oh,
Hey.
oh, he's a DC fan. Did you see that, Mr.
Yes.
Pineapples?
I'm okay with that. I am absolutely okay with that. So.
No,
was
that's a good
welcome,
thing. That's what I'm
though.
saying.
I was in the green room getting my hair and makeup done, and
No.
found out the problem for tonight. It's
I hope you didn't
conspiracy.
eat any of the cookies or the Fiji
Yeah,
water
drink the
back
Fiji
there.
water. Yeah,
It's all just
Oh,
a
yeah.
show, to be honest with you.
yeah. We
That's
don't know
all.
how old that stuff is. It's just there.
It's been there from season 1, maybe even
Season
longer
1.
than that. So
It's been around 150 episodes or so.
The water was a little brown, so I didn't touch it.
Okay.
That's it. Never mind. So, Mikey, I hope you got to hear everything we were talking about you a minute ago, and if not, then you can go catch it on the replay. But really excited to have you here, man. Thank you for coming with us tonight and joining us. So
I did. No, thank you. I'm honored to be here. I owe some people money, probably you. You said the words.
you know where to find them for the next hour, everyone. So
Check is in the mail.
yeah,
What's your address?
yeah. We'll edit that out later in post processing. Okay, so no worries.
Cut. There you go.
Listen, so Mikey, tell us a little bit about yourself, will you?
Well, again, my name is Mikey. Mikey Betancourt is my whole governmental name. I'm born and raised from Lubbock, Texas, actually, and so that's where I had the amazing pleasure to meet actually Joe and your wife, Christina, and then also, of course, Jamie. Excuse me. I'm all Mexican.
No, you can call him Jamie. That's what we
No,
got.
that's
Jamie.
okay. You don't need to say Jamie. That's okay.
Yeah.
Jamie. I don't know what all to say about me. And then, like an hour into the show, I'm like, and I guess that's it.
Right.
And thanks for coming on. It was a pleasure having you, man.
Awesome. Thank you.
So
I'm born and raised from Lubbock, Texas, and have my beautiful mother and my twin sister Michelle and my little sister Bridget. And so they, of course, have had children and my babies, my nieces, and my nephews, and so I totally love them. So anyhow, shout out to them, shout out to my family and friends who are watching. I really appreciate it. And thank y'all again for having me on the show.
Hold on just a
Yeah.
second.
We're
yeah.
getting some echo there, Mikey. And
So,
we're trying to see.
mic check.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Mic
Mic
check.
check. Mic check.
All right, so Mikey, real quick, just turn the volume down on your laptop a little bit.
It's a live show, people.
That's
Yeah.
how we roll, everyone.
Yeah. This is how it is.
You
Keep talking,
Okay.
Mikey.
All right, is this better?
Oh,
How about now?
we'll
Do you
see how it
guys
goes.
have-
Good.
Whoa.
What?
Mic check. I don't hear.
Is that good?
I don't hear an
Mic
echo
check.
yet.
Mic check.
Okay,
Mic
that's
check.
better. Yeah.
That
Okay.
sounds better.
Is that good?
Yes. Let's see
Okay.
how it happens. All right. All right. Aw. Someone's saying, "Go, Uncle."
Oh,
I
that's,
can't tell he's
that's
messing
my
with
niece,
us, sir. That's
No, I
awesome.
don't think he can. I think he turned it down so much that he can't hear us now.
Uh-oh.
oh, I can hear
Can
you.
you hear?
I can hear you.
Oh,
can?
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. Good. All right. We are back in. So, all right, Mikey. So that's who you are. Now, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do? Why did we bring you onto the show tonight?
Right. Well, what I do is I actually, for the past 18 years of my life, I've invested in child welfare or child abuse field. And actually, that's where I met your beautiful wife, Dekisa, at the Children's Advocacy Center down in Lubbock, Texas. I was at that time, I think I was a family advocate or a forensic interviewer. I forget which one, but I always tell her she should be glad that I got her job because I was the one that got it for her.
Oh.
No,
She'll hop in
no, I
the
didn't.
comments.
Yeah.
No, I did. Beautiful, smart woman. Anyhow, that's where we met and really became invested in helping children and families now through very traumatic times. Really, the child sexual abuse is the main core of where I focus my career, my attention. Currently now, though, I'm working in the human trafficking and child exploitation field. And so that's where my focus has been at the past several years, actually.
Okay. So I got to be honest here. I'm gonna ask some silly questions because I don't know a lot, and that's why we have people like you come on. So
Mhm.
I know I've heard child trafficking, and I'll be honest, the only thing I really know about it is what the media says in terms of movies and TV shows and what they make it out to be and what they say. So if that's where you're at now, can you kind of help us understand and grasp what that means in reality?
Oh, sure. So I want to tell you that first, any type of commercial sexual exploitation of children or child sex trafficking, those are forms of a global child sexual abuse. So underneath child sexual abuse, there's a big old, circle. And then underneath that, of course, you can have commercial sexual exploitation of children. And then, of course, sex trafficking underneath that. Here are the differences, though. Commercial sexual exploitation is just what it is. It's either, taking pictures of children or sending images to children or youth, also having them send images to you, or even just showing images of pornography to children. I mean, can I say that's 9 o'clock, right? I can say that.
Right.
Anyway, so that's kind of what is commercial sexual exploitation of children. In regards to actually being trafficked, that's actually where, as you would probably see somewhere, in movies or what have you, of where I guess it was more titled of prostitution. Something was just changing now, and it should, because, here in the state of Texas, actually the age of consent for anyone for sex is actually 17. So you have to be 17 years of age before you can actually say, I consent to having sex. Other than that, it's pretty much a crime to have sex with anyone underneath the age of 17. And so therefore, when we start talking about child sex trafficking, there's 3 elements that folks are taking a look at when it's human sex trafficking. That includes the adults. It's the threat, force, or coercion of being involved within that life. Although children can't, those 3 are out the window. Again, you cannot have sex with children, nor sell them. Child sex trafficking is pretty much a, meeting the goods or the needs in exchange for a sexual act. And so that's what sex trafficking is.
Wow. I gotta admit, man, it's heavy topics, and these are topics that are, I will say, definitely difficult for me to wrap my head around, because, the idea behind it is it's repulsive. That's the first word that comes to my mind, is repulsive.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a strong word to use for that. And everyone I know, we've always talked about, we want to educate us all with our guests, and we want to learn. And so I got to ask first, though, Mikey, what inspired you or drove you to even get into the field? Like, that seemed, for me at least, would be a very difficult topic, situations even.
I grew up wanting to be either a detective like Hunter. I don't know if y'all remember Hunter back in the 80s.
Yes, I remember Hunter.
Yeah, detective. I'm dating myself. Or I wanted to be a lawyer. I didn't grow up saying I wanted to get in, in human trafficking or child abuse field. I think it was pretty much kind of a manifest destiny, if you will. If you take a look at my life, there's a lot of trauma that surrounded my upbringing. And so, if you look at my life on paper, I'm not supposed to be where I'm at. But it was really by, the grace of God that I was able and put in places where I really shouldn't have been allowed to. And not only that, but in good places where I was able to actually help make a great impact in the lives of children and family and their trauma. I forgot to mention, though, and Jamie, you did bring up a good point. This is a heavy topic. And so what I like to tell folks when I'm presenting is, this topic could trigger some things inside you. And so several things. One, if you continue to listen and you continue to get triggered, it's very important for you to use some grounding techniques, like take a deep breath, take a sip of a really great drink. I have hot cocoa because it's cold outside. A little something. We'll find out at the end of the show.
You're right.
But also be able to smell something, touch something. It's really important just to kind of keep your inner peaceful, especially when we're talking about a difficult topic. But getting back to where, my line of work and my career, again, it's just been by the grace of God. I really think that I was put in order to be able to make a difference and an impact in children and people's lives. And like I tell people, I work with superheroes every single day. They just don't wear capes. I work with law enforcement. I currently work for a state department. And so I work with prosecution, I work with advocates. And so just with all these great people that are doing amazing work down at the ground level, helping children and families through their trauma.
So, and I appreciate you saying that, because I know that even though for me, as I internalize it, I'm thinking, yeah, it is a heavy topic. It is a difficult subject and whatnot. I appreciate you sharing, the stuff that we can do to ground ourselves and help us out. So, I'm with you right there. And, but that part that really resonated with me just a moment ago when you were talking about the heroes who don't wear capes. And I thought it was so funny. So I spoke to Mikey yesterday, guys, and we were chatting and doing our little technology test here to make sure everything was set up. And after I got off the phone with you, Mikey, I saw some news that had popped up, and I was like, I wanted to read it, and I got a chance to read it. And I read about how there was like a huge number of children who were saved over in Ohio, I think it was, or I don't remember the states exactly, but there was like several different operations that were underway this past weekend and had come to fruition, and they saved like 43 or 83 kids out of situations that you're talking about. And I thought it was like just this one grand number, but it wasn't. It turned out being like, we found 3 kids in this home. We found 2 kids over here. We found 15 kids here and 12 over here. And the numbers just kept adding up. And this weekend, for whatever reason, it was like, we're finding all these children, some who had been missing from just a couple of hours.
Oh,
one who was just missing just like 2-3 hours, and then some that were years missing. And so they found a whole bunch of these kids. And I thought, man, I feel better about talking with Mikey about this, because I'm thinking, you're right. There are heroes out there that don't wear the capes. There are people who are doing the work. And as tough as I can feel about this subject, I do think I'm grateful that there are people like you and your peers, or your network of peers, who are out there looking, and I know for me, plenty of times I see people who are like, what about the kids? And it's like, well, there's people who are out there looking and doing, and then not just looking, but when they get in, helping them out and stuff like that. And so I appreciate what you're doing. I think that's amazing.
Thank you. And it's everybody's responsibility to keep our most vulnerable population safe. And one of those vulnerable populations is children. They look up to us as grown folks, as grown adults, to supply their every single need, and even some of those teenagers as well. Getting back to child sex trafficking, it's one of those topics that's actually kind of a hot button topic, and it has been for a couple of years. And the reason being is because a lot of systems are changing currently. I used the word child prostitution earlier, and that was a common denominator. That was a common theme word that was used. That's just a child prostitute. We pick that person up. What happens with these traffickers is they manipulate their victims into participating in what's called the life. And so they do that. Again, it's force, threat, coercion is how they do it. They just manipulate their victims. What I always tell folks is that there's no age boundaries in regards to sex trafficking. We have several different types of trafficking. Of course, you have what most folks will see on TV is the pimp trafficker. And that's where you have a pimp who has, and I'm going to use terminology that's used within that phrase. But pimps who have a stable, they have a house, they have a whole bunch of women or even guys, men working, boys working for them. Out there selling themselves in order to bring in money for the family. And so I say all that to say that that's that pimp trafficking. There's also gang trafficking. But one thing that's not really talked about is, and it happens, is familial child sex trafficking.
Yeah.
And so that's where the actual family members are trafficking their children. I was looking over at a webinar. Dr. Sharon Cooper shared a webinar, and so she had put it into perspective, especially now with what's happening in today's society, is that families, that's the only way that they're going to be able to survive is sometimes selling their children, either for rent, for food. Some parents are on drugs, and so that's how they're going to get their fix, is by selling their children. And so that's that is a whole realm of family facilitated child sex trafficking. And then, of course, we can get into also where it's just a no buyer. There's, the third party is where it's actually, as out of a necessity, just due to whatever facts that the youth is out missing or is on runaway or is not in a home. Sometimes, they get paired up or meet someone who introduces them into the life. And so people always go, well, where do these traffickers get these kids? What's their means? What are we doing right now? Social media is a huge, huge entryway. I mean, that's really the only way that, you're going to be able to connect with a younger population. And so it's really, really important for parents to understand that, hey, listen, even though that you bought your child a cell phone, my little sister does a really good thing with her kids, is that by 9 o'clock, all the cell phones are in her room. They're charging up. No one is able to get their phone to the next morning. And she does her due diligence. She's like, I'm paying for this bill.
Good for her, man.
That phone, right? And it's a safeguard. It's a really good safeguard. And not only that, but the other thing too is that if we can allow ourselves to have open communication with our children and make it a safe space, and not make it to where if something happens to you, these are the consequences. But if something happens to you, share that with me and we'll work through it.
So can we pivot for a second on that topic? Because I appreciate you mentioning that. Do you know, are there ways, like as a parent, a guardian, a Theo or a Tia, someone who has children within their vicinity sometimes, are there some good, I don't know how to say it, I feel like practices maybe, or, flags to help us, control that better, or be aware of when our kids are, like a lot of times they say the lingo. Do you know the lingo of kids? And it's like, they come up with stuff so fast. I'm not sure what things mean what. So there are things like that, I'm looking for practicals in the home,
Yes. Most definitely. So one of the things that you want to really take a look at, and again, this is just being invested in your children on every single day. One, you want to be invested in their social media accounts. If you have a child who has multiple social media accounts under various names, and especially what they're showing on those media accounts, if they're showing, their body parts, or if they're wearing very provocative clothing within these social media sites, it's not a telltale sign that they're being trafficked, but definitely there's some promiscuity, and so there's something that's happening there that should be talked about. The other thing too is just how many number of cell phones does a child need, or does a child have? The other thing too is that we also take a look at what the child has in regards to, like, do they have an expensive Louis bag? I mean, does anybody have a Louis bag that can't afford? Can a child afford a Louis bag? I can't afford anything Louis.
Sure, not getting one for my kids.
Yeah. So you want to take a look at those type of things. The other thing too that traffickers actually do is that they brand their victims either through tattoos or through actual branding, and so that's something you want to take a look at for as well. Truancy, if a child is just truant from school, of course, the big thing is sexually transmitted infections, and so that's a big telltale sign that of course there's been some sexual contact that's happened.
I want to share a few comments real quick. Dr. Pineapples is saying, thank you for helping me get my first real job. Very important work. So glad there are heroes like Mikey working to keep our children protected.
Amen.
I definitely agree with that.
Oh, thank you.
Carrie Patton Jackson, she says, Mikey, I'm a very naive person when it comes to this topic. Thank you for bringing light to this area, so I will stop looking away out of fear. Oh, that's powerful, Carrie.
Yeah.
Linda says, "Me too, Carrie. I have beautiful grandkids and great grandkids. I worry about them."
You know, it's something that I told my mom. My mom had 5 of us, and I told her, I said, you know, Mom, I said, I feel like I only have 2 boys. I said, and I'm raising them in the era of social media. I said, I think that is far scarier than you raising us than it was, you know, that so many years ago. I said, because you didn't have to compete with social media and all that. You could have just beat us and we were going to listen. These kids, you know, they'll be on their phone and, you know, they're in a whole new different world. And I mean, I remember like when we very first got a computer at home, I was 16. And it's amazing the amount of perverts that were in the chat rooms. And of course, I didn't think anything of it. I was 16 and I'm like, oh, that's my friend. So I was just chatting away. But I still do that now. I'm like, oh, my friends. No. But anyway, yeah. So it's just, you know, you do have to be vigilant of your kids in social media. I know Kate, I got him an Instagram because his dad used to deploy, and then he was started getting like these messages, and I'm just like, okay, we can't do this. So we had to take it away forever. I mean, you really do have to stay on top of social media accounts.
Most definitely, yeah.
I always find it, you know, being in IT, Mikey, that's what I do, and Sandy and Joe, I mean, Joe knows, but, you know, I used to go out and talk about those type of things, and I would hear about kids, 10, 11-year-olds, 9-year-olds who are on Facebook and posting and Instagram and I'm just like, I find that challenging. I do feel what you're saying, Mikey, and I do think that there are opportunity. I've seen when I've had a call from a mother once who's like, we can't find my daughter. She went to sleep. She wasn't in a room. Everyone find, pray, you know, do all that stuff. And it was just like, oh my gosh, turns out she met a man and they were communicating through social media, and she left the house to go to her friend's house, but slipped to his place instead. It was scary. So I think about that, and I think about how like there's reasons why some of these things aren't allowed to kids. And I appreciate what Carrie said a moment ago. That makes, you know, that rings out. Like, it's hard to hear these kind of things, but we can't turn away.
Yeah.
Here's another.
One thing that go ahead, Joe.
No, go ahead, Mikey. One thing you were saying.
One thing that you know we cannot be afraid of is information and knowledge, right? And I think it's super important for us to become really educated about all those things that our kids are doing. And then on the flip side of that is really making like I said earlier, a safe space where they can come and communicate. Communication is a big key in any type of relationship, and that includes from parent to child relationship. It's very, very important, even through disagreement, that you are able to open up yourself and allow that child to be able to have the freedom to say those things that are bothering them. And then hopefully, you know, you as a parent are able to help them through and guide them through those things.
And kind of a conversation that I had, my youngest is 14, and there was a trafficking situation that came up that was in the news. And that was an opening that I was able to tell my son. I'm like, look, you know, a lot of it is family. If somebody makes you feel uncomfortable, you tell us. Someone says, I'm going to threaten you I'm like, they won't kill me. I promise they'll be dead first. Like, you need to come to me. You need to talk to me. If somebody makes you feel uncomfortable. And so I feel like, you know, through these stories that we see on social media now about all these busts, it's a communication, you know, for your child. Like, these are the things that are happening. This is real. And, you know, because we didn't used to talk about stuff like that growing up. We didn't talk about anything remotely like this, you know, and I can tell it. And with him, I'm like, we're breaking these barriers. We're going to discuss things. And You're right. I mean, communication is key between your parent. I mean, you have to, you know, let them know this is real. Yeah.
I did a I won't say experiment, but I had to show my kids one day about how dangerous is social media. For example, I was like, you can't just go posting and sharing anything. And I showed them how easy it was to find them. And so as a IT professional, I was like, here's how it works. And I was like, you've only shared these 2 pieces of information on social media. And I won't say what those were, but I will tell you, I was able to go onto just a private internet browsing thing, pull some information up, showed something. I clicked on it. I said, "Let 2 clicks, and I can already tell what city you live in." I was like, another click and one more search, and I can tell where you're at on certain days of the week already.
Wow.
And she looked at that, and she was terrified, and I'm like, rightfully so. That's why we don't share certain things on social media. That's how easy it was. And she saw, and it showed everything, and I was like, "Who's that? Yeah, that's a family member. Where's that? That's yes. What's that? Yes, that is exactly. This is why we do not share." And it hit, and she was just, oh my gosh. And so I'm hoping that was a lesson that clicks. But yeah, so I want to read you this comment right here, Mikey, because it leads into another question. That wasn't it. It's my sister-in-law, my beautiful sister-in-law, Heather Schooler Mathis, who
Heather.
she says, "Wow, thanks for sharing. This is something that I didn't realize was such an issue until a few years ago. How can we keep our children safe?" I thought I had a question. I think that was it, actually, though.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Again, going back to knowledge is power. Most folks are like, how can I keep my children safe? Let's have a conversation with them about what's going on. Let's not be afraid to inform them. Again, that's us getting educated as parents and then informing our children about the dangers that are out there. We tell our children not to touch a hot stove. Why can't we tell them about the safe measures of being out on social media, and not only that, but about with their peers and stuff? So it's really, really important just, again, to have that open line of communication, make sure that we educate them, because if we're not educating them at home, guess where they're getting the education from?
The streets.
Their friends, and that information is going to be impacted with whatever factors that they have going on in their own lives as well. So it's important to do that. And the other thing too is that your children do have social media. Listen, everybody's going to be looking at it. Why aren't you?
Right. And one thing I have learned on Snapchat, you are on a map unless you specifically block that you're not on. And it shows you, a little map of your house and everything. And it's scary. Anybody can find you.
Yes.
So, and then
Joe,
that WhatsApp
earlier, were you going to say something?
Well, actually, my question was, it was more geared towards, so what exactly is your position and what do you do to help in these type of situations? Are you specifically geared towards a certain part of it, or are you just kind of in charge of certain things?
Oopsie.
Well, so currently my role is more of because since I work for a state agency, I'm more of a policy. I'm more in policy development currently, protocol development, and assisting different teams. What's happened in the past several years, and really here in the state of Texas, an amazing thing is that there are these care coordinated teams that are being established all across Texas, right? And so these care coordinated teams are really writing their own protocols, guidelines, how they're going to approach within that one local community of a child who's being sex trafficked, or even there's allegations of being sex trafficked. And so then what happens with that is that those group of professional organizations get together. I work on the child welfare side. And so I assist in helping work through some language of the guidelines and the protocols, but it really is a local level. I did some work out in Dallas, actually, not too long ago, several years ago. I'm very blessed to have even stepped into that role. But I really helped these other professionals within the Dallas community to really guide and develop their protocols. And then the way, of course, I left and they got somebody else better. They got somebody else smarter than me and, elevated the program a whole lot better. But, it was a start. And so, they're doing amazing things over there. Of course, anywhere where these care coordinated teams are being developed, they're doing some amazing work, making sure that children who are being trafficked are receiving the opportunity to be restored. And real quick, here's why I say this, and here's where it's a different beast in child sex trafficking. Do y'all ever remember or know about what the Stockholm syndrome is?
Yeah, isn't that where someone your kidnapper, you end up sticking up for them being attached to them, and not seeing them as your captor or this bad person.
Correct. Yeah. And what that's called actually, and I'm glad that you put it that way, is called trauma bond. So victims in child sex trafficking are bonded through the trauma. Traffickers or exploiters will use force, threat, or coercion, right? And a lot of times they manipulate their victims into actually participating in other criminal activities. So that way they're even more indebted, or they're more going to be loyal to whatever is happening to them, right? So that's called trauma bond, actually. So they're bonded through the trauma, and it's really difficult to break that bond. There are 3 ways out of the life. The life is what we call sex trafficking, right?
Okay.
So one of those is you either have like a system intervention. Either you were picked up by police or by CPS or by another entity. And so therefore, you're starting to receive all these services. And so you're hopefully able to really start to think about, maybe this is not the life for me. So it's called actually I'm gonna get creamed for this if somebody's watching. Knows what I'm talking about.
You're not gonna get creamed by any of us because this is all new.
It's called the stages of change, actually. And so, for someone to go, sometimes they have to go through 3 or 4 times of the stages of change. And so you have like where there's no completion at all. Nothing's wrong with them. They are okay where they're at. They don't see anything wrong with that. And a lot of it is just because of their trafficker exploiter has promised them, the world has promised them a relationship. And then you get into a pre-contemplative stage where maybe they start to receive some services, or they see maybe this is not really what I want. And then, of course, you go into your contemplation where you're actually starting to say, all right, this is not really what I want. I need to really seek out. Hopefully at that point in time, they've come into contact with a social service agency or with someone that is able to help them, move into what we call the action stage. And so that's really where they're taking action of like, I don't want to be in this life. I'm going to do things to better myself, not only better myself, but really to get out of being trafficked, out of being sold. Mm-hmm. And hopefully at that time, they're connected to some really strong social service agencies. Here in the state of Texas, we use what's called a human trafficking advocate agency or a commercial sexually exploited youth advocate. And so those advocates actually provide some mentorship. They provide that one person in your life, can I say this? Your ride or die, pretty much. Like in contact with that person over and over and over and over. And that person, hopefully, the advocate will hopefully help them, build, get some education, be able to get a stable home life, and then move them into where, they're just going to be stable. A lot of times, though, just because of the trauma bond, and then sometimes of the pressures of just being in this world, sometimes they go back into the life. And so it becomes a cycle, just like child abuse. The cycle. Yeah. And then so they'll go back in, and then, they go through the whole cycle again. And it's a journey. It's a journey of restoration for these victims. And so I guess that's why I'm so passionate about making sure that we're having these services for these children and these youth that are being trafficked.
So you just opened a whole world of questions I wish I could ask, but they're all over the place. Is anyone else feeling that pressure on your chest though, or is that just me? Because I'm like, this is definitely a deep topic, but I appreciate you, Mikey, like talking about it, because Carrie's comment is ringing out. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be closed off to it, if that makes sense. I want to know so I can make better choices and be more aware. So I still appreciate that. I do want to. Carrie had a question earlier, real quick, Mikey. She says, "Can you advise on some buzzwords or example of a sentence you would say to a 9 or 10-year-old girl so she can understand the dangers?"
Some buzzwords. Maybe just asking them, "Hey, what's going on?" And do you have Snapchat? Do you have social media accounts? And just something to start that conversation with them. And then maybe just say, "Hey, are any of your friends, tell me about your friends, tell me about their social media accounts." I think anything to start that conversation about being able to just open up. I guess some other buzzwords. I mean, you don't want to just be like, you know about sex trafficking, don't you? You don't
Right.
want to be a child, right? But I think you want to come at it from an angle of like, tell me about your social media account. Oh, well, this is something that I read, and maybe share whatever you read with them. You'll take some golden nuggets off of a research article, maybe that you have read, or maybe if you go to the governor, to the governor of Texas website, there's some initiatives. If you go to the child sex trafficking page, there is a child sex teen trafficking. I think it is. Anyway, I'll get it for y'all. I'll get it right here soon. Or even to the Attorney General's office webpage. There's a video actually called Be the One. It's a great, incredible video. And it's something that you could actually, sit with your child as young as 9 or 10 or 11 and really just take a look at it and then, be able to start a healthy conversation, hopefully, through watching that video. The other thing, too, is the Department of Family and Protective Services. If you look on their website and, you search human trafficking, there's a public-facing website that has resources and information there as well, here in the state of Texas.
Okay.
I just have like a quick maybe question opinion. Like, I feel that I think like little girls in particular, they're being like more and more sexualized by their parents. Like a mom's like, oh, you're sexy. There's nothing sexy about a 6-year-old. And then, they let them dress, kind of provide. I feel like those are things that are all just, I don't know, like that's just like a gateway to, early sexuality, to early, things like that. I mean, is that just me and my old way of thinking, or is that something that maybe
I mean, this is just me talking. I think, there is some truth to that. One thing that I didn't mention, I mentioned to Jamie yesterday when I was talking to him. I almost said Jaime, con la chancla.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you.
What I mentioned to him is that there's actually this it's called ACEs, or Adverse Childhood Experience. And so this was a long study. I'll be real short with this. But a doctor Dr. Fellini, who was over the, I think he was the internal medicine doc at Kaiser Permanente or something like that. I'm sorry, it's not close to 10 o'clock at night. For some time. Anyhow, he was doing this research over obesity patients within the Kaiser Permanente, organization, and he saw that 50% of them had dropped out. So, he asked this one pivotal question to one of the patients that had dropped out. He says, how much did you weigh when you first had your first sexual experience? And the lady responded back with like, well, I was 40 pounds. And at that point in time, he found that he was like, well, there's something deeper that we've got to go. So they did this whole 17,000 patient study, had questionnaires. Anyhow, they ended up seeing that, everyone has experienced an adverse childhood experience, whether it's been that you've been yelled at or you've actually been abused in some kind of manner. I think there's a 10-question questionnaire that focuses on household, whether, your parent had mental illness, or whether you grew up in an environment where there was domestic violence, and or there was drug abuse, or if you had someone that was in and out of prison. Anyhow, you answer these questions, yes or no, 10 questions. And what it showed is that those that had received or had answered or had yes to 4 or more questions were actually more susceptible to lifelong illnesses, diabetes, heart attacks. People with ACEs of an ACE score of 4 or more were more prone to suicide. Actually, like it increased it by 1,000%. And so what ends up happening within this ACEs study, and so if you look up ACEs, adverse childhood experience, you can go out and take the test. There's a questionnaire. But this questionnaire really, it was a pivotal. It wasn't an assessment. It wasn't something that, said, okay, I got 5, I'm going to have diabetes. It's not that. We were more prone. That was kind of because what happens is that during abuse, and if you have a whole lot of abuse all the time and there's nothing and there's no one has helped you heal from that, people end up doing different things to cope with those stressors, right? Smoking, drinking alcohol, promiscuity, You have all these different gamuts. And so that's something that this study showed. So when we talk about that, Sandy, you said that, a mom telling a 6-year-old that she's sexy, then we've got to start taking a look at what mom's history is. Did mom come back one of those backgrounds? And is that why she's telling her daughter this at 6 years old? Because, me and Sandy feel that that's an appropriate conversation to have with a 6-year-old, right? And so that's something else. That's another factor that we need to consider in when we start looking at child sex trafficking. Anyway, sorry, I'll get off my.
No, I love it.
We brought you here to put you on that. So
Yeah.
My wife says it's so difficult to find appropriate clothes for children.
It is. Yeah. I go into the girls section for my nieces and stuff, and I'm like, dear sweet baby Jesus. So what is this?
I had to call my wife this weekend because I had to go clothes shopping for the girls. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out. I was so stressed out. I was like, the kid section's over there, but I'm over here in the adult section, and all these clothes are not kid clothes. They're like adult clothes. Mm-hmm. And she's like, our kids are just big kids now, And I'm like, oh my gosh. Heather's here. I agree, Sandy. It's sad you can't dress a girl like a little girl anymore without effort. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. It was so much I was like, the girls were tired. I was tired. It was not fun. It was ridiculous. It's like, why can't you just make something that fits my little girls? Come on. Carrie says, the quesapina, truth. I want to ask the retailers where the rest of the shirt is. So, oh my gosh. Or the shorts. I'm like, are those really shorts?
Some of their underwear selection is better than what, we have as adults.
Oh my gosh. Delota says, I always tried to be open with my daughter about being safe when she started going to school. So I guess she was 5 or 6. She's now 23, and I still remind her and still worry about her. Well, our kids are never really not going to be baby like for us, right? So
yeah,
that kind of, yeah. And then Dr. Pineapples again. I didn't know you wrote the rules, Mikey. Can you make my sugar daddy, hint, hint, wink, wink, get me a Louis Vuitton or some red bottom shoes?
Oh, the red bottom shoes. Yes.
Yeah. You better get some bonus up in here.
Right.
Well, I just heard an investment opportunity as to we should all get together and make children's clothes and sell it.
Yeah, really.
For real. Carrie, Carrie can help us do that because she knows about clothes. So, Mikey, how does a child have you personally seen or been involved in what happens with the children afterwards? Can you tell us I don't know how to ask it, man. I kind of want to hear some positive stories.
Yeah, tell us a good story.
I don't want to say positive, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. There is definitely hope. Hope. We have to hold on to that. I hold on to it for all the children that we get involved with. But yeah, there has definitely been. We work with survivor leaders, and so these are actually women who have been in the life and then have gone through the whole stages of change, a circle of change. But they are now leading nonprofits, being CEOs, executive directors. So there is definitely a lot of hope. Now, what needs to happen, though, is that means that we all need to be involved in some point, right? Either we take up a career within child welfare, either, through whatever, either prosecution, law enforcement, you're working for the Department of Family and Protective Services, or, you're being an investigator, you're working for a nonprofit, like the Children's Advocacy Center. It's important that we all take our part in that. The big thing of it is that, we definitely need to, make sure that children are receiving correct and great therapeutic services. Trauma focused, of course, is a big one. Dr. Pineapples knows about that. And making sure that they have wraparound services, not only for them, but also for their families and back where they came from, because you can't get someone, a person, and then, make them a flower and then put them right back into the old soil, right? You can't. You've got to really be able to not only take care of that child, but you've got to be able to go and provide services and meet the needs of the family as well. So that way they can all heal together.
So, Mikey, can I ask you? So, I imagine that. So, this family has a child that's been gone for this long, and they finally get their child back, and they're expecting that to be their child that left them, but that's not always the case, right? So now they've come with all this extra baggage, and the parents don't know how to deal. So, you do offer an opportunity for everybody to go to therapy?
Yeah, a lot of organizations actually do. And one of the big things is that, I have come back from a child advocacy center background. And so they offer some really good therapeutic, some trauma intervention pieces there as well. And then again, these care coordinated teams are developing their own set of trauma informed care. So that way, not only are they hopefully helping the child, but they're also helping the family member are part of that family too.
And how do you take care of your mental health with dealing with all this? Because this has some, this is a lot. This is a lot for just for a regular person to be dealing with. So how do you take care of yourself?
Well, I'm really big into self-care. So, I go and get my hair done every week. Just kidding.
I'm like, okay. That's great.
Oh, Mr. Pineapples does that too.
He moans when he gets his hair done.
We go to the same stylist.
Wall. That's my stylist's name. I believe he gets it.
I actually, and so this is the other thing too. It's when I talk to professionals, and not only that, but just anyone, it's very important to take care of ourselves. So self-care is very, very important for me. It really has to start with the physical piece of it. So for me, I love to work out. Sometimes you can't tell that, but I love to work out. I love to go run, and I love just to be active. Sweating is really good. What happens when you sweat is you actually create endorphins, and endorphins are actually that good stimulus inside your body. And so it's really important to sweat. So if I take a couple of days without working out, I am not in a good space. You don't want to be around me. I'm not a good person. So working out, making sure that I drink enough water. Water is, like I tell people, water is life. It's important to drink enough water. So taking care of your physical needs as well, it's really important, as well as like your mental needs. If you need therapy, read a good book, meditate. I usually go run and pray. And so that's kind of my meditation and prayer time. And so that's one of the things I do. And then on the other side too, is your emotional piece of it as well. So one, if you need to go see a therapist, I highly recommend it. Go see a therapist if you need it. But the other thing too is it's okay to take care of yourself. It's okay to be easy on yourself, especially in the times that we have. It's okay to maybe do something good for yourself, even if it's just like, I'm going to get my nails done, or I'm going to eat this piece of cheesecake because I'm going to do that for myself.
I'm going to take a nap.
It's important for you to do that, but make sure you do it in moderation. Eat the cheesecake or run, right?
Yeah.
But it's
I'm
really
going to take a nap, Mikey.
Sure that we take care of us. Huh?
I'm going to take a nap.
Hey,
that's self-care.
Naps are good. I love naps, but it's really important to do whatever it is to take care of yourself. I love going out, especially in the summer. I live here in Austin. I was always out at Barton Springs pool, or floating the river when it was open. So just being out, and for me, outdoors, nature, that type of stuff is good for me.
And to break the sweat, Mikey, might I suggest eating some tacos? They also produce endorphins.
You're
with
right.
lots of jalapenos.
Yes.
Yes. So I just want to toot a little bit about Mikey and my wife real quick, because Mikey, you mentioned the Children's Advocacy Center, and I remember the stories, not the details, but I remember, Mikey, you were a forensic something. I don't remember what it was, but I remember thinking highly of you back then, because I thought what I understood Mikey's job, guys, was he would talk to the children who had suffered from some sort of abuse, trauma, and he would detail like exactly what had gone on. And I would think all the time, I'm like, oh my gosh, to hear that. We think of it, at least for me, I think I internalize it. I'm like, I couldn't handle that. I couldn't do that. But flipping the script a little bit and thinking, how awesome, Mikey, that you were in a position where kids were able to talk to you. And one of the things my wife used to tell me was like, it's never good if you're helping someone and then you start crying when they cry, because then who's focusing on the kid? And I used to be like, that always lasted with me. And I just think, man, Mikey must have like, not that you don't have feelings, but just be still or sensitive enough to the kids to be able to give them that attention that they needed. And then for my wife also to be able to give, I don't know if that's how you say it, give therapy, provide her therapy services to the kids and the families of going through that and helping them go through it. And I used to be like, you guys, like, definitely the heroes, the unsung heroes when it comes to those situations, man. You guys are like rock stars.
Anyone with forensics in their job title is automatically cool to me. So
Yeah, I think you're badass.
You could be a forensics frog breeder, and you're still cool to me.
It'd still be pretty neat. Yeah, actually, I agree with
like,
Joe.
I'm like, you're forensics? What? That's only on CSI. You must be on TV somewhere.
Right. You had me at forensics.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I need to get that on my business card somehow. How can I
Totally do. Yes. Okay, and then you can send them to all of us so we can be like, I know a forensics guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll give it to our forensics guy. He'll get back to you.
I was extremely just blessed. I'm extremely blessed to be in that space where I was able to have children to tell me their darkest, deepest secret. And so I'm just blessed that I was able to be their ear for them. So,
man.
So, Mikey, what is the future? What is the future for Mikey Betancourt, forensic person?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how much longer I'll stay, of course, here in the child abuse, child welfare realm, but definitely see myself like helping still. And I don't know. I would love to get into personal and professional coaching, but that's another topic for another day.
Into what? Professional coaching?
Yeah, professional and personal coaching. When I get my business together, I'm going to come back on the show, promote it, and
yes,
definitely.
You're going to be a forensics coach.
Yes.
Right. Hey, I'll sponsor snacks in the green room next time.
Leave your business cards on the table in there later, okay? I like this story. My wife is saying, I remember one of the children Mikey and I worked with telling her perpetrator. I'm telling it. I remember how proud we were of her. Not all of our kids are traumatized by their experiences.
Right. She's correct. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're at the end of the show, but I'm like, I don't even know how to do a proper sign off, Mikey. So I guess I'll just default to what we normally do.
Yeah.
I just feel it's not even worth, like, it's so minuscule to what this man does.
Well, that's why we're giving him time to plug whatever he wants to plug there.
I know.
Buddy.
Man. All right, Mikey, we like to give our guests a moment to kind of have the screen and share whatever it is they want to share with our audience, whether it's a chocolate chip cookie recipe or whatever message about your business or anything else you'd like to. So we're going to give you some screen time now to do that, okay?
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So I can only come with the words from Martin Luther King, from the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., where he says that darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. And hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. And we're in a world and time where we need light and we need love. And so I implore, I ask, if you are willing and able to, you can get involved in helping children who have been abused or anyone who's gone through trauma. Either you could volunteer for a local organization that deals with children, child abuse, or human trafficking. I would suggest to contact your local child advocacy center, your local CASA, just to find out some information from them, or even volunteer for them. The other thing too is to give not only of time, but give of money. And sometimes it's even getting into the profession, actually coming in and doing the work, linking up with other arms of other superheroes and actually doing the work. And so I want to end on the words of the late, great Representative John Lewis, where, it's important that we make good trouble, necessary trouble. And we can't let our voices be silent, especially during this time. Other than that, thank you so much. And so I hope that we'll be in contact soon.
Awesome.
Man, that is true. Good
He
trouble.
just threw out the
Good
quotes and
trouble.
everything.
That's what I'm talking
Man.
about.
Necessary trouble.
Yeah.
Real quick before we let you go, Carrie is telling you, Mikey, you're a forensic rock star. But seriously, your heart is huge and your mind is strong. Good on you, sir.
Thank you.
Mikey, thanks for coming out here tonight and giving us some
Yes,
time
thank you.
and dropping your knowledge and sharing your experiences with us. I really appreciate you, man. Big time.
Yeah.
So
Thank y'all. Thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it.
Here's another one
look
for
at
you.
that. My sister-in-law, I am there when you're ready to be a coach. Bring Mikey back.
Right.
I missed it. All right, Mikey. So we love you, man. Thanks for hanging out. We're going to put you back in the green room. Don't go anywhere after that, okay?
All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mikey.
Thanks, Mikey.
Good night.
We'll see you.
Good night. All right. Oh, look, Linda had a light and love. How awesome. Thanks for sharing what you do and shining the light on this subject. We can see the love you have.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
Thank you,
that's
guys.
definite true. Like, man, that guy, like I said, just a rock in this field. He's been in this field for 18 years, he said, right?
Yep.
And he has that personality that just like makes you want to just tell him everything.
Right?
Oh, and Mikey,
Maybe
by the way,
he can be a bartender after he's done with this. 'Cause
yes, there's your
bartenders.
next profession.
Yeah.
We'll be telling him everything.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
You know, what a great guy. I'm so glad he came on. So everyone, I do hope you enjoyed it, because for me, Joe, Sandy, I don't know about y'all, but it definitely was one of those a heavy heart that I was having listening to this. But it was one of those where I was like, I am so happy, or not happy, proud, whatever the word is, whatever the adjective is, that there are people out there doing the work and they're like legit able to handle that.
Yeah,
I know I
think
can't.
just like in every field, like I could never be a nurse because I'm not a nurturer. I don't know, I don't know if that I could do anything like that, but definitely, I'm so glad that there are people like Mikey that can do things like that.
Right.
So remember, some of the things he had mentioned, guys, is volunteer type work. If that's something, I know that it's CASA, CASA, and the Children's Advocacy Center. Those are two things that he mentioned that I recall. Go back and watch it. We'll see if we can pull some stuff up and put them in the comments for y'all. But man, yeah.
Very cool.
Thanks, Mikey.
So who do we have on tomorrow?
So tomorrow we have a couple of baby makers coming on to the show.
Wow, wow, wow,
Brown cow.
And we'll keep it pretty PG-13, everyone. But it is a play on the words. We enjoyed it. But they, so the Jacob and Letty Green, they're going to come on the show tomorrow, and they're going to talk about their infertility journey. And so they run a YouTube that talks about their journey of trying to conceive and having children and whatnot. So if you know anyone who's had that journey or is struggling on that or has come successful and they want to come support some of their fellow infertility journeyers, then invite them to the show tomorrow.
Their fellow journeymen.
People?
Yes.
Cohorts?
So, and do us a favor, drop us some comments in the Facebook page or message the three of us, whichever, and let us know what are some of the baby making songs that you guys like to hear, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're going to probably show some of the songs that are out there that people showcase and tell us, so we can see which ones you like the best, okay? So anyway, we love you all. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight, and as usual,
Remember to wash your hands.
for at least 20 seconds.
You filthy animals.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good
All right.
night. See ya.
Somewhere there's a good night button.
It's the social distancing show. How did you not know? How did you not know? It's the social distancing show. How did you not know? How did you not know? It's the social distancing show. How did you not know? How did you not know? It's the social distancing show. How did you not know? How did you not know?